Welcome to the Movies of the Damn podcast. My name is Kyle Grant, and I'm sitting here with my friend and published horror author, John Hunt. If you enjoy what you hear here today, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Instagram and Twitter, @DamnedMovies. Email us any questions, comments, and suggestions to moviesthedamned@gmail.com. For further details on John's published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Today, we'll be discussing Sam Raimi's 2009 supernatural horror, Drag Me to Hell. The film follows bank loan officer Christine, who faces a gypsy curse after she decides to repossess an old woman's home. A powerful demon then begins to torment her with the intention of dragging her to hell after 3 days. After an unnecessary kitten sacrifice, a failed exorcism, and a botched attempt to pass on the curse, the film ultimately ends with, just as the title suggests, Christine being dragged to hell. John, opening thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, so I was already sold in this one when I knew Sam Raimi was directing it. Sam Raimi of Evil Dead and Spider-Man and Darkman, and just there's quite a list for this guy. He has a very distinct visual style, so I was looking forward to watching this, and I have to say I wasn't disappointed at all.
No, I'd be surprised if you were. This was a great film from start to end. I really liked this movie. As I told you before, I'd seen it once before, enjoyed it the first time, enjoyed it the second time through, actually. And something I might not have picked up on the first time, there was a lot of comedy in this film. Like, it wasn't a horror comedy, but there was definitely horror comedy aspects to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's his way. That's another, I guess, distinct Sam Raimi directorial style. Like he has he'll try to gross you out. He'll throw some weird action. He'll have some stuff, kind of different camera angles where you see things flying at you very quickly, and the camera spinning around at the same time. And then he breaks it up with some one-liners from some of the characters.
Yeah, definitely one-liners. Like the one that really sticks out to me is kind of when she's back at work, things start spiraling and she has that nosebleed. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah,
And it's like the grossest nosebleed you ever seen, and that her boss gets completely covered, and then he turns, he's like, "Did I get any in my mouth?"
I know.
Uh, it's so grotesque and such an obscene scene, but I just found myself chuckling. It's what a crazy line to say in that moment.
For sure. And that's just the way he does things, right? He's fun. He's always interesting to watch. And Justin Long was in this, and I haven't seen him in too much. I guess before this and after that, but before then, I was seeing him in a bunch of movies like Dodgeball and Jeepers Creepers. Like he was popping up everywhere, and then all of a sudden he just kind of fell off the map there. I don't know why. I like him. He's a good actor.
No, I really like him too. He was in another horror movie that's a really weird one. It was called Tusk. Do you ever see that one?
No, I have not. I heard of it though.
Yeah, really strange. It's a Kevin Smith movie, really peculiar film. We might have to do it for another podcast, but that one wasn't for everyone's taste. But as an actor, I really do like him as well. So it's good to see him in this movie, and hopefully we see him in more stuff in the future. Getting into this movie, no real bad decision off the start for Christine here.
No.
You almost feel bad for her. She's kind of wants to get this promotion at work, and she's being told you got to make these tough decisions. So when this old woman comes in looking for her third extension on her mortgage, she makes that tough decision, and it just so happens to be a gypsy who curses her.
Yeah, no kidding. It's very bad luck on her end, I would say. And I think we got to give to the writing and the directing. They set this up. They set this film up very well. They showed her insecurities with trying to get the new job, and that she was clearly qualified for, and then her insecurities with their relationship with Justin because she overheard that conversation with her mom. So they had this stuff with his mom, and they had this stuff very early into the film. So like very quick character development, and you're kind of behind her almost immediately. Um, and you wanted her to do well, you wanted her to succeed, and then yeah, she makes that decision where it was a logical decision. There was nothing wrong with what she did. You know what I mean? It's like how many extensions can you give a person? And then the old lady begs her, goes on her knees in the bank, grabs at her legs, and then curses her for it. I was like, man, you got it all wrong. She's like, you shamed me, and I'm like, nah, you kind of shamed yourself doing that, right? Like that's has nothing to do with her. But it was good character development on both ends, right? Where she kind of stood her ground because she was freaked out, and then but she also like, um, and inevitably gets cursed because of it.
Yeah, no, no, exactly right. And but then it brings us to a scene where I kind of had some like questions. I don't know what I thought of it, where she's kind of leaving the bank late at night and she's in the parking garage, and this gypsy woman just like happens to have made her way into the back of her car.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. I had a bit of a tough time about that. Like, I guess we're assuming that this gypsy is magic and can just like get into the back of this car undetected.
Well, I'm getting behind the fact that this movie was a supernatural movie, and the gypsy was the supernatural, I guess you would say, facilitator. She's the one that does curse her
Yeah.
and does this magic to her. So I that didn't bother me at all because she is the one with who's bringing the unreal to the real. So I didn't have a problem with that at all.
And then they get in that kind of like crazy like fight scene inside the car, and the car's like driving at one point.
Yeah, yeah.
Like uh, I'm glad she got in the car because it got to that really cool scene, but I just had to I kind of had to give a bit of a double take to she's in the car and she didn't notice her in the car. Like I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of made me shake my head a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it because she sees old lady's car, she's distracted by that. Then there's that magic handkerchief or what do you want to call it, napkin throwing floating through the air. She's distracted by that, and it's just like I didn't have a problem with it. Like once again, this woman is able to conjure a demon from hell to come pick up like try to steal a soul of another woman. So I don't really have any issues with her being able to perform otherworldly things.
Yeah, no, no, fair enough. And then so obviously, Christine is cursed at this point, and we
Mm-hmm.
kind of make our progression through the movie of like strange things begin happening, and Christine kind of doesn't really know what's going on, and then right, she knows that she's cursed, but it leads to a few great visuals throughout the movie, and one scene that kind of really got to me, and I don't even know why, John. There's that scene when she's sleeping, and there's
Mm-hmm.
like that fly that keeps flying around her and like goes in her nose and
Yeah.
in her mouth, and then she like wakes up to I don't know the old lady like vomiting the worms all over her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like to me that was just like a wild scene, and it's so funny that like you would think what part of it bothered you, like at first glance you'd be like, oh, the getting those worms vomited on her, but no, that was so over the top that didn't bug me. It was the initial with like the fly going in up her nose and in her mouth and stuff like that. Like it just made me queasy.
Yeah, it's he does some fun stuff in his films, and it's all with the device to gross you out and distract you from what else is coming. You know what I mean? But and I did find it interesting that he chose to use the fly, right? Because it's like the devil's supposed to be the Lord of the Flies, like Satan's supposed to be Lord of the Flies, which is because it's associated with death, right? Usually flies are born out of dead flesh, so it's like it's an interesting how he utilized that in it as well. And there's just a lot of fun stuff in this film that I enjoyed and I enjoyed watching. But I wasn't too surprised because once again I keep saying this and I'll probably say it again. I like Sam Raimi. Like I like what he brings to the screen, and it's always a fun time. Like Bruce Campbell, like good actor on his own and fun guy to watch, but him and Sam Raimi together, that's a great combo in my opinion.
No, no, definitely, right? And this movie had so many twists and turns and unexpected things. So like when she gets it into her head that she has to sacrifice something,
Mm-hmm.
and this cat that she loves, she ends up killing the cat.
Mm-hmm.
And it has the crazy line where she's like, "Here, kitty, kitty." I'm like, what is happening right now?
Yeah,
She's got like a butcher knife in her hand.
yeah. So I found that the only problem I had with the film.
Really?
Yeah, because for me it's out of character for her, right? It's not. She said earlier on she's a vegan. She wouldn't kill an animal, and then the person says to her, because I guess they're setting it up for her to do this, says, you'll be surprised at what you do to get out of this curse. You'll be surprised at what you're willing to do to get away from this. So they kind of set it up, but at the same time, I'm like, she wasn't pushed that far before she decided to kill the cat. I figured, excuse me, sorry. I figured a person of that character would have had to been pushed a lot farther. Like it would have been more of a desperate step for her to have taken to get to the point where a vegan and animal lover decides to kill a cat for this. You know what I mean?
I, I do know what you mean, John, in the fact that like perhaps she wasn't pushed to the brink yet because like it was still early enough on, but she had come to the realization where in 3 days she was being dragged to hell. So as soon as you come to that realization, even if you're not close to the end of that third day, I think you're willing to do just about anything in her shoes to prevent that from happening. And so if she thought I got to sacrifice something, like let's get this over and done with. So I do hear you, but I can also see where she's coming from as well.
Yeah, I just think there should have been more. She should have been driven more into a more desperate state for that to happen, in my opinion. For her character on the ice, like I didn't see her character doing that. It almost seemed like she bought into the whole thing very quickly. There's not a lot of doubts going on about what was actually transpiring, and she just took the word of this guy that she and her boyfriend kind of mocked near the beginning. She never really mocked. I'm not going to say she did, but you know what I mean. It's like one of those ones where it's like you're going to question a psychic, like you're going to question a medium because it's not something that's normal. That's not every day. And then she's driven to go. Well, she sees him, and he tells her these things, and then the book, and then she visits him again, tells him about the sacrifice. She makes a big stink about I can't do that, and then he tells her you'll be surprised at what you do, and then within a short time period she does it, and I'm like, for me it wasn't there should have been more character development or just more desperation, as I said earlier.
And it's hard to argue with that, but I think she was getting a little bit desperate, and you are bringing up some good points about that part of the movie, but that wasn't the part that I had the biggest issue with. It was a little bit later on, when she's kind of told, so this medium or psychic, again, whatever you want to call him, tells her, okay, there might be another option. We might be able to do an exorcism here. You just have to get $10,000 together first.
Mm-hmm.
And then so there's a couple scenes of her getting the money together, trying to get the money together. Ultimately, Justin Long's character ends up paying for it. But then next thing you know, it switches to the woman who's performing the exorcism who says that all my life I've been waiting for a chance to have my second shot at this demon. So it's like, which one is it? You are only doing this for $10,000, or it's been your lifelong wish to have another shot at this demon?
I did find that interesting as well, but it was she at no point asked for the money. It was the other guy, the facilitator, that asked for the money. So even though they didn't show it or anything like that, I'm kind of more curious about um, whether if he had like a finder's fee in doing this. You know what I mean? Or like what was the money actually for? Like um, for her to do it. Like they did mention, this is a dangerous thing that she's going to do, so she wants to be compensated, and this is why you have to give the money. But I was looking at it, the other stuff, and it's like you said, like at the very beginning of the movie, we're introduced to her, and that she wants this vengeance for the demon taking away that child to hell, and the opportunity comes again. Like I would agree with you that she would do it for free. I just I didn't I don't know why they added that in there, but now that I'm thinking about it, talking to you, that is also an issue. Whereas before I only had the one issue, but I would agree with you that is an issue to me.
Yeah, it is at face value, but I think what you said early on there, John, does make sense. perhaps it wasn't for her. Perhaps it was this psychic fella who was keeping the money. But then that wouldn't necessarily be in his character either, because remember in their initial encounter, he wants to give her $60 back.
Yeah, but I had that to me that had more to do with just get out of here, right? Like
Yeah,
you're
where now he's like, okay, I'm involved. This is dangerous. So for me to like put my life at risk, I need 10,000.
yeah. So, but I just that was unclear, right? We're both agree that that's unclear. So it should have been made
Yeah,
clear that either the money was for him or he took the money, or even like not a lot of people have a goat lying around. Like maybe they needed to buy stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like who knows? But they could have explained that, because at no point even after that did she ask for the money or is concerned about the money. She's more concerned about getting her revenge against this Lamia, right? So
yeah. No, no, fair enough. And so that is interesting, right? Because you're right. Not people don't have goats laying around, so there would have been some cost to it. So yeah, they could have done a better job of explaining it. But again, we're nitpicking here. Those two things that we just brought up that are semi issues, like the are outweighs the bad in this movie. So just don't let us turn you off this movie. And then it kind of goes through that really cool exorcism portion, where we were talking about the kitten before, and the kind of a crazy visual when the one guy becomes possessed and he almost like throws up the live kitten. Like that was
yeah, no,
wild.
that was really good actually. Well, it's a dead kitten. It
Yeah.
just fell to the floor dead. I thought that was
Oh
interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, it was that. I guess it just kind of looked like it was alive because it was almost like he was like birthing it out of his mouth. Like it was a wild scene, a wild visual. Like Sam Raimi did some really cool stuff in this film.
For sure, I thought it was alive too when it was first coming out, but then when it hit the floor and didn't move at all, I was like, oh, it's just the action of it coming out that made it appear alive.
Yeah, no, no, you're right. Now comes to the big question, John.
Hmm.
You're in her shoes.
Hmm.
It's the exorcism has failed. The earlier attempt at a sacrifice has failed, and you're kind of on your third day here, and you're told the only way to get rid of this curse is to gift it to someone.
Hmm.
What do you do? Now, obviously, I don't want you to name names here, but do you have a game plan here? Are you just going to accept the curse for yourself? Are you going to give it away to someone? Like, do you have someone in mind, a random person?
I
What
would
do you
never,
do?
I would never give it away.
You would take it. You go to hell for eternity.
Well, yeah, I would. It's because it's not. I couldn't give that to someone else. There's no way I could do that.
Interesting.
Well, I
So
think
you just,
I think living after. So say I give it to someone. I don't hate anyone, right? I don't know if there's anyone. Just such a useless emotion to me. So I don't hate anyone. I don't want anyone to suffer in my place. So say I did do that and I gave it to someone, and this is all clearly hypothetical. But
oh
then
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so but then I live the rest of my life, and what am I thinking about? At how terrible of a person I am.
No, it's not
Yeah,
a good spot to be in, right? But
no,
it's just tough, right? Like imagine yourself in that spot, so you're not her character, but you're yourself, and you're like, I'm gonna leave my family. Like it's an impossible spot, and you kind of saw that they did a good job of like showing that she was like trying to give it to people, but ultimately like really couldn't until she came up with the plan to, I guess, gift it to the dead gypsy woman.
hmm which I thought was a clever way to do it actually. Because like
It was,
she asked the medium if this were possible, and then he had to think about it. Like he had to reason it out to make the nonsensical magic seem sensical and think that it would work. So I really like that portion of it. Like just give it back to it, because when the antagonist is dead and you can't do anything to get rid of this curse that this person gave you, and they're beyond your reach because they're dead. But now she thought outside the box and was able to give it back. So I kind of like that aspect of it.
yeah, no, I thought it was cool. I thought it was an interesting way to try and solve this problem.
Hmm.
Having said all that, though, did you see the switcheroo coming?
Well, they made a big deal of the envelope, so I had a hint of it.
Yeah, and like I remember her giving him the quarter because he like made a big deal of it. I remember he brought
Yeah.
it up at the family dinner, but I didn't remember it being in an envelope. So
No, no, that
Like
because that when she gave it to him, uh, he immediately put it in an envelope and sealed it.
I know, and I believe you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I just don't remember that happening. So
Oh,
it never crossed my mind.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, she has the quarter. Like that never crossed my mind as to Switch was. But like
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what I thought because again, this is the second time through that I've seen it. I will tell you, I misremembered the ending. Remember
Hmm.
last week I told you, John, I'm like, this one has a really cool ending. I
Yeah.
misremembered what happened.
Well, what did you think happened?
I for some reason I remember Justin Long getting dragged to hell.
Oh.
And then I'm like, oh, I must have seen it like an alternative ending, like type of what was that movie we watched? The Girls in the Cavern, the Descent.
Yeah, yeah. So
I,
it's.
I'm
Sorry, go ahead.
I was like, oh, it must be something like that where there was like a different ending.
Hmm.
But everywhere I looked, no, there was no other ending. I just completely like invented it in my head and misremembered what happened at the end.
Yeah, you know what? I thought that was now that you mention it, like I did think of that only because um, because there was a switch to the envelopes, and then he would have taken ownership of it because he thought it was his. So, and then he made a point at the end of showing her the envelope. So, for me, I had two thoughts. I was like, oh, he is going to be the cursed one now. And the second one thought I had was, okay, there's a switch.
Yeah,
So, I yeah, I mean, I just like the possibility. I thought of the possibility. Okay, this coin is very important. When I saw them make a big point of him sticking it in an envelope, licking it, and sealing it, I'm like, okay, that's going to come up later on. I knew that. I just didn't know in what format it would. And when she dumped it in the car, and I was like, okay, she's got the wrong one. But I wasn't
so
sure that she had the wrong one. You know what I mean?
yeah. So like it was going through your head, like, does she have the button or does she have the quarter?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
again, you're more perceptive than myself, Mr. Hunt.
Well, no, no, it's just not even that. It's like I said, I read a lot, and I watch a lot, and I've probably watched and read a lot more than most people. So then I just pick up these patterns. So it's just like someone who plays basketball a lot versus me who doesn't. They're going to be better at it than I am because they
Yeah,
practice it all the time, right? So that's all it is. It's just me practicing. That's all it is.
fair enough. Rotten Tomatoes. Critics love this movie, John. 92.
Well,
But you know who didn't like it as much? The audience at a 62.
really?
Yeah, again, and this is kind of just like I'm echoing my words from last week. Like, a 62 isn't great here. Like, I just don't get what like 38 out of 100 people didn't like.
They didn't like the ending
With they were rooting for her and they were
for
upset
sure,
that it didn't end. I didn't think of that. You're right.
and that's
Maybe it
and that's
leaves a bad taste in people's mouth.
for sure, and that's the reason. That's the real reason why I liked it as much as I did. Was that ending? Because other than that, it was a typical Sam Raimi film. The plot progression was laid out. The breadcrumbs were there all perfectly. You had the visuals. You had the grossness. Everything Sam Raimi does perfectly well, which is okay, awesome for me, right? Like I love watching his films, obviously, but that ending made to me brought this movie from a 70 to the mid 80s.
Just like that, just gets bumped up.
Just
And I got to agree with you. I love the ending.
yeah, because it was just different and interesting, right? It was just other than that, like go watch like I don't even know, like go watch Evil Dead or Dark. You'll see what I mean because you've already seen them before. You probably already know what I mean. It's just that the way he presents movies and the way that he does them is it's very distinct. So you know what you're going to get, and you get it every time. And there's never any to me there's never any disappointment because it's fun to watch. But however, when you get the sameness all the time, even though it's a good sameness, it's still not a great sameness. You know what I mean? But when he made that ending where she gets dragged to hell, I was like, okay, well, now this is really, really good.
Yeah, just that's what the movie's named, right?
That's right.
And I think you're right as well when you're saying this movie's fun to watch because there's a little bit for everyone in this movie. There's the gross out parts, there's kind of the cool twists. There's also some jump scares.
For sure.
Like the one that got me, and again, I hate admitting this stuff to you. That stuff gets me the second time I watch it through. But when she's kind of like going through her house trying to like collect items that she's gonna sell to try and raise that $10,000, she's like out in the shed and she like pulls the curtain back and there's the old woman. Buddy, I jumped
I
so
know.
high.
That was a good
It's just
scene.
it was set up so well.
That was a really good scene.
Yeah, no, and so tons of great scenes throughout this thing. Uh, wasn't made for cheap. Budgeted 30 million, which is really getting up there for horror movies. You usually see horror movies made for a lot less, but there was a lot of cool special effects in this film.
For sure.
Had a good return though. Brought in a little over $90 million at the box office, which is definitely a big win for Sam Raimi here.
Absolutely.
Um, well, buddy, anything else to add on this one?
No, no. There's really isn't that much. This one's really self-explanatory. Like if you haven't seen it, you should see it. Like if you like horror and you haven't like you nailed it. You said it perfectly well. Like there is a bit of something for everyone. Like the gross out scenes aren't like gross out, terrify or gross out. They're just gross out. Where, uh, where
Like the
she's
worms, the fly.
the worms, and she's trying to bite the girl's face when her teeth are out, so she's only gumming her face, like, and the drool's all coming out, like just stuff like that, right? It's nothing over the top where people are getting sawed in half, and it's nothing like that, right? So it's a fun kind of gross out, and the jump scares are really well set up. Um, the character development, the storyline, it's all fun. It's all fun, and then the ending is in my opinion, exceptional. So, um, yeah, if you're doing yourself a disservice if you like horror and you haven't seen this film. So I think you should go watch it.
Yeah, so hop on Netflix, check it out. It's worth the hour and a half or however long this film is to watch it.
Hour
You'll enjoy
38.
it.
Yeah.
Hour 38. There you go. Only other thing we have for you folks is the movie we're going to be reviewing next. We're kind of going off the board a little bit for this pick. We're gonna review next week a movie called Never Hike Alone, which is a Friday the 13th fan movie that you can go and stream for free on YouTube.
Yes. Yes. And I.
I have not seen this movie, John. This was one that you wanted to do. Maybe you can talk it up a little bit.
Oh, for sure. So I'm a huge Friday the 13th fan, like huge. I love it, right? So uh, I would agree they're not the best films, right? But for me, there's nostalgia involved, and um, there's just a lot going on in these films that I really, really enjoyed growing up, and I still enjoy now. It's probably the tie-in, the emotional attachment I gave to it, whatever. Fact of the matter is, I love Friday the 13th, and I love the whole lore about it, the 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 background to it. It's all fun for me. So there's this fan film done, and it's a couple of years ago I heard a lot about it, and like a lot of the fan films you'll see like Jason versus Michael Myers and all this type of stuff, and some of them are really good, right? But they're not like they're not like movies. They're just more um, like little battles or whatever. But they're still well done. But this is like a short film. Um, well, not necessarily a short film, but it's like, to me, I felt like I was in a theaters. Like you could have been watching it in the theaters. To me, it was so well done, and then it had a lot of really good Jason scenes. Like this film to me made Jason scary again, which is really really hard to do, and considering overexposure to it, right? So when you're overexposed to something that's scary to you, it stops being scary. So Jason's kind of hit that template for me, anyways. Whereas he's not scary because I've been overexposed to him. But this film brought some of that fear back. Where I was watching, I was like, this is so much fun. I'm really enjoying this. So I'm really jazzed to be watching this one because I know the same group, Womp Stomp Films, made a um, sequel to this one, and it's like Jason in the snow. And it's like Never Hike Alone in the Snow. I forget the title. I'm sorry if I'm messing that up. But when I saw that they're doing a sequel and it's coming out in September, I'm like, we got to do this one. We got to do it. So I think I talked it up enough, but I
Yeah, yeah.
really
So
enjoy it.
so we'll check it out. Check it out. I'll watch it for the first time. You'll watch it again, and we'll discuss it here next week. We invite everyone else to hop on YouTube, search for Never Hike Alone, the Friday the 13th fan movie. Watch it and hear what we have to say next week. Other than that, folks, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Twitter and Instagram at Dan Movies. We want to hear what you thought of today's podcast and any suggestions you have, especially in terms of what movies you'd like us to discuss next. Send us an email to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. Please also check out John's full length novels. His first two novels, Dollhouse and The Tracker, are Amazon bestsellers. You can also order his novella Balance, his book of short stories, Four Shots of Horror, and his newest novel, Off the Grid, all right now on Amazon. For further details on John's other published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, everyone, thanks for listening.